I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At Tuesday's Senate Banking Committee hearing, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was questioned by Senator Pat Toomey. His questioning centered around climate risk to financial institutions. Yellen and the Biden administration have cited climate change as an existential threat to the U.S., including its systems of banking and commerce. The Pennsylvania Republican, who cited cybersecurity as a more pressing issue, asked Yellen point-blank, quote, "Can you name a single financial institution in America that has failed as a result of a severe weather event in the last 50 years? Let's listen in to her response.
Thank you, Senator Menendez. Secretary Yellen, as I mentioned during my opening remarks, I've been encouraged that the administration has recognized the importance of stablecoin regulation and the fact that it is a responsibility of Congress to define the broad parameters of that. And as you know, I released a discussion draft of a bill that would, in fact, regulate stablecoins. It would protect consumers by establishing new standardized federal disclosure requirements. Among other things, it would also establish a new federal license. So I would like to ask if you can confirm for the record here that it is still your view that it is important, I would argue even urgent, for Congress to pass legislation governing the regulation of payment stablecoins.
Yes, I'm happy to confirm that, Senator Toomey. The President's Working Group issued a report concluding that current statutory and regulatory frameworks don't provide consistent and comprehensive standards for the risks of stablecoins as a new type of payment product, and urges Congress to enact legislation to ensure that stablecoins and such arrangements have a federal prudential framework. I would urge bipartisan action to create such a framework. We would look forward to working with you. I would note that there was a report just this morning in the Wall Street Journal that a stable coin known as Terra USD experienced a run and had declined in value. And, I think that simply illustrates that this is a rapidly growing product, and that there are risks to financial stability, and we need a framework that's appropriate.
I appreciate that. I do think it's important to note that the stablecoin to which you refer, I believe, is an algorithmic stablecoin.
I believe that's correct.
And that means, by definition, it's not backed by cash or securities as the, if you can call them, more conventional stablecoins. So I think that's an important distinction, but I'm grateful for your point. I hope you will agree to work with me and my colleagues who are interested in getting something done. Do you think we could shoot for a goal of getting legislation done this year?
I think it would be highly appropriate. The outstanding stock of stablecoins is growing at a very rapid rate, and we really need a consistent federal framework. I really look forward to working with you and members of Congress to devise legislation that would accomplish that.
Great, thank you. Let me move on to the FSOC's focus on climate change. You spoke at some length about climate change during your opening remarks, and I've observed that I think 7 of the recent 10 meetings have been about climate change. So do you subscribe to what I think is the administration's general paradigm for this, that the risk to the financial system comes in 2 categories: one, physical risk associated with severe weather events, and the other, transition risk that's associated with an evolution away from fossil fuels? Do you subscribe to that paradigm, or do you think there's another category of risks?
I would agree with you that those are the main risks.
Okay. So can you name a single financial institution in America that has failed as a result of a severe weather event in the last 50 years?
I'm not aware of
So I don't think there has been one. And every single year we have blizzards, we have hurricanes, we have wildfires, and sometimes they're horrendous. And some of them have been recent. But we've never had a single financial institution fail, much less the entire financial system. So I think it's pretty clear, and actually I think Chairman Powell acknowledged there's really no physical risk that's even remotely imminent. So then that brings us to the transition risk. Well, I suspect that over time we're going to have a transition away from fossil fuels to other forms of energy. It certainly looks like that's going to take quite a while. I don't see how that's much different from the fact that consumer preferences change in all kinds of products and services. So I guess I would urge you to consider that risks like cybersecurity, I would think you would acknowledge cybersecurity poses a much more imminent risk to financial institutions and our financial system than either physical risk from severe weather or climate change in general, right?
Well, I think both create risks.
But I said more imminent. Is cybersecurity a more imminent risk?
Cybersecurity is certainly an imminent risk. It's one that the Council is very focused on. The Treasury Department has special responsibilities.
I understand, but you're choosing not to acknowledge that cybersecurity is a more imminent risk than climate risk. And I think that's kind of surprising because it's so obvious to most people. Cybersecurity is a real-time, continuous risk to every single financial institution in America. There's constant bombardments of attacks, and if one major one gets through, it could be devastating. Climate change does not pose that kind of imminent risk.
I think climate change is an existential threat to our globe and to our future. You can see that countries, it is a long-term risk, but it is becoming notably more severe. And you can see a growing number of countries take significant steps to address this risk. Financial institutions themselves have voluntarily decided that they need to align their portfolios with a framework of net zero by 2050. And that's really in the absence of any requirement that they do so. I do believe that transition risks are very real as more and more countries adopt frameworks that are meaningful to address climate change. We could see significant changes in asset valuations that pose risk to financial institutions.
There's a lot we disagree on there, but my time has expired. I think Senator Warner is with us remotely. Senator Warner?